if you're that good, you could be an absolute dick and still get employment.
Hello and welcome to the Keyboard Chronicles, a podcast for keyboard players. I'm your host, David Holloway, and I'm thrilled as always to be here with you. It's an absolute pleasure to introduce to you Mr. Stephen Reid Williams. As you'll hear in our chat with Stephen, he's had an amazing career already to date, playing with a whole gamut of artists from the Overtones through to Paul Young, Leo Sayer, and a lot more. He's had a great solo career as well. Done some production, you name it. He's got some wonderful stories about some of his early gigs and some of the learning curves. Yeah, a lot to enjoy in this one. So I'll let you jump in and I'll talk to you after the show. Stephen, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show. How are you this fine? Well, it's just early autumn. No, you've got a couple of days of summer left.
Gotta be, yeah. Well, it's beautiful here again. I'm not really suited to the hot weather, to be honest. So I keep telling people I don't want to hear a single word of complaint about the summer this year. Once it gets cold again, I don't want to hear a word. It's been everlasting.
Yep, that's what we like to see.
In fact, perfect summer, not like 76 when apparently it was, summer all long and no rain at all till, whatever it was, November, and everyone went out in the streets when it finally rained. We've had a bit of rain, we've had a bit of cool, everyone's had a chance to cool down and then it goes sunny again. So yeah, it's beautiful over here.
Yeah, nice. Pleased to hear it. It doesn't happen often enough. So, and across that time, I can imagine the last few months, Stephen, have been probably busy for you. To just tell us probably to kick off what your last 12 months have been like before we dig down a little bit deeper.
Happy to do that. Yeah, my last 12 months, it's been pretty typical, to be honest. I've had, usually my year consists of one, maybe two tours, and then a bunch of private work, a little bit of studio stuff. So this year's been no different, really. We've just finished a tour with Leo Sayer. So that's kind of a mop-up tour, really, from last year, the venues we didn't get to play last year. And so we've been all over the country again, and Ireland, just filling in the dates we couldn't do last year with Mr. Sayer, and it's been a lot of fun. Before that and after that, I just sort of go back to my regular life as a piano playing singer, and that takes loads of different forms. So I do everything from private events like birthdays and parties and weddings and things like that, to piano bars, to anything I can lay my hands on, really, or anything I still enjoy. To be honest, is pretty much how I would put it. I don't do all the work I used to do, but I pick the bits that I like, and I still keep my hand in doing all of that kind of stuff, as well as the touring.
That's excellent. And just, I hadn't thought of asking this, but the private work, Stephen, as far as you said, private events and that, how do people get in touch with you? Is it just via your website or word of mouth from previous events, or?
Yeah, it's both, really. It's a lot of, I'm very honoured, actually, that a lot of my events lead on from another event. So a lot of word of mouth going on. So yeah, that's obviously a good sign. But yeah, if people do find me through my website, I've got a little bit of agency representation as well. Sometimes it comes in that way. But again, I'm really lucky. I don't go out looking for too much work. It tends to come in, and I know that could stop at any time, any day now. I could be unemployed. I think we all sort of have that over our heads as self-employed people, not just musicians, I suppose, but
yeah,
anyone self-employed, So, but so far, yeah, it just keeps coming in.
And definitely not expecting you to list names here. So talking more from an anonymous viewpoint, are there some really iconic private events you've played where you've thought, wow, this is something totally different? Again, understanding you can't drop names, but just
of course,
broadly, yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And one of the things I love about my job, actually, is that I can find myself in these ridiculous places in ridiculous parts of the world, playing for people. You sign confidentiality agreements and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, so you get to see a flavor of life that that's very different to my flavor of life. But at the other end of that, I play, birthday parties here back home, or like I say, or like a piano bar, which is the most, it's the lowliest of the low, isn't it? I suppose, in a way, but I don't see it that way. I love it. I love the breadth, and I love the variety. Keeps it interesting for me. And often, actually, as much as I love doing those crazy events, um, the sort of the high profile ones, if you like, they're often not as fun as the less high profile ones.
Yeah, higher pressure. And again,
Yeah.
with that, just talking at the broadest level, confidentiality agreements aren't uncommon, obviously. And I assume that's a combination of you're playing high profile events where, people may want to be able to party without fear of it going to the media. It's stuff like
Hmm.
that, I assume, is the main reason for that.
Yeah, it's things like that. People weren't, it doesn't matter how, so obvious your profile is or how big a name you are, you still want to have fun. So people, I mean, often it involves that, you don't always have to have paper. It might just be no phones, please put your phone away, no social media, nothing like that. So, it could just be that. But, there are lots of my friends doing this kind of work as well. We've all got crazy stories of some of these parties, and they could be, wonderful, amazing events, as you can imagine, on a scale that most people don't get to do. But
Exactly.
on the other hand, I can do tiny events too, and I love them all.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. So let's go back to what got you to that point of being able to play amazing parties and other events like that. So your musical upbringing, Stephen, what got you into music in the first place and led to this passion that you're still exploring today?
Yeah, it's that's the question, isn't it? For all of us, everyone's path's different. I mean, mine was kind of through my parents, I suppose. That when we were very very young, one Christmas arrived, and I think my parents bought my brother a keyboard. And in fact, it kind of might have been this one. I don't.
Oh, wow. Oh,
Yeah,
is that one of the Casios?
it is. Yeah, it's the Casio. It's the PT-20.
Wow.
I didn't leave it there, by the way, just as it just happens to be there anyway. Yeah. So, and I think I just took to it better. I think I don't know. It might have been another one. It might have been a Bon Tempi we had, but he wasn't interested in it as much as I was, and I took it on. He actually started playing guitar a little bit after that, but from then on, really, it was a case of you couldn't really stop me. So asking for the next best keyboard, next Christmas, and then I have to really give it out to my music teacher from school. I'm a huge advocate for music education. He was an amazing, and is still a good friend of mine. He was an amazing teacher, and he sort of spotted something in me and made sure that it didn't go to waste. But not only did it, he obviously recognized I was getting a bit handy on the keyboards, but he said, well, you need to be in the choir as well, Steve. And he was absolutely right. Communal singing and doing all of that, and make sure I got involved in all kinds of other music that maybe I wasn't as comfortable with. So he stretched me and made sure that my sort of formative musical years were strong. But it was every break time, every lunchtime after school. There was a whole community, and I think a lot of people who have grown up as musicians will say the same thing. That was their community. It's often their friendship group. You probably heard this 1,000 times from everyone you've interviewed. It's music's a special thing. It brings people together, and my friendships were no exception. And we formed bands, and I've still got some of those friendships now. Yeah, that was my musical upbringing. And after I left school, I took a bit of a route through music. I did an A level in music, which I nearly failed. I got an E at A level music. So yeah, I was lucky to scrape through. I feel like I should defend myself at that point, but I'm not going to bother. I'm just going to leave it out there.
Although you probably, I'd like to jump in there because you raised a really good point. You called out your music teacher that was such an influence. So what did he do that worked so well versus what maybe wasn't done so well for your A levels that you didn't do as well as you would have thought?
Well, it's not just the individual teaching skills. He was unbound by the curriculum in a way that at sixth form, I don't know what it's like over in Australia, but back in whatever year that was, 92, when I went to sixth form, I think it would have been probably the London Board of Examination. I can't remember now, and that there was no modern music sort of course. We did one module maybe. I think as far as we got up into modern music was Eleanor Rigby, and it was a lot of Bach harmony and reading music, and and don't get me wrong, those skills I wish I had in greater abundance. I just don't, and I didn't then. And composing was something I loved to do, but doing it within the strictures of that course, I was not the strongest student. It was interesting though, because even our sort of genius student who was there, the guy, he could play anything at any time to anyone from any source. I think he only got a C or something like that. It was just a very, very strict course, and it didn't suit my musical nature at all. Whereas at school before that, yeah, we had pop music studies, and we had classical as well, and we had a whole breadth and everything in between. And I think they were allowed to play to the strengths of the individual student's skills a bit more. So
Yeah.
I don't blame my sixth form teacher too much.
No.
But yeah,
No,
it was
no.
different experience altogether.
Yeah, it sounds like it. And so, I mean, for you to maybe not have the optimal experience in sixth form or your last year of school, what then led you to continue going after school and ending up in a career? So what were those early couple of years like that led to you going professional?
Well, I didn't go straight to there. I came from so I was quite good at school, if you like. I worked hard in all my subjects and got pretty good grades and all that. So I was expected to sort of go on, and I think I'm allowed to boast about that this many years later on, without sounding like GCSEs do not matter at all. No, I shouldn't say that. There's a bunch of kids out there just got the results. It does matter. But yes, it was expected for me to go to uni, so I did. So I started off doing straight music, and again, I quickly realized this was sixth form 2.0. So I played the system, and I decided to do a joint honours with English, which is my other passion.
Oh.
And because of that, I got to choose the modules in music that I really wanted to do, and that played to my strengths, and off we went. So I had a good time at uni. I much better time. I got a good grade at the end of it, and then I left uni, and that's when I started. Did I start? I mean, I think the first thing I did when I left uni was I became an assistant manager of a record shop. So that's sort of the music industry, isn't it?
Yeah.
but it wasn't the dizzy heights. But yeah, and then I actually became a teacher. So my degree actually was really useful. It got me my job as a teacher. So I became a college lecturer for a while. Taught music there, and that's when I met some people who kind of changed things ongoing. That's where I sort of formed a few connections that then really put me on the path, I suppose, to doing music proper.
Yeah, amazing. And so, those connections. What was the first gig where you went, okay, I'm doing this fairly regularly now. I probably won't just be doing teaching, and I'm going to be doing a lot more performance production and so on.
Yeah, I remember we had a mature student. I don't know if you know her over there, but she came and did a course with us, and she ended up being quite successful over here. Her name was Beth Rowley, UK singer. She kind of came around at the same time as early Duffy and probably very early Adele, right back then, I think. I might have got my dates slightly wrong, but she had a career, and I played piano for her just for a little bit, just a couple of gigs in London. And it was just at a little place called the Bedford. That was it, the Bedford in Balham, which is a music venue, like an open mic thing sometimes, but they have these great little bands that come on, and they do a sort of almost like a showcase thing. So I think she asked me if I could do it, and I did. I think I agreed to 50 quid for fuel, and it was at that gig that I saw another band playing I realized that there was great music out there being made by undiscovered bands and undiscovered artists. I was in my little world down in the West Country, and I hadn't really seen this. And I went to the big lights of London, and I thought, wow, these guys are amazing. And we spoke, and we met, and we exchanged numbers, and they really liked the way I played, and I really loved the way they played. So that from that gig became a connection to some guys who I'm still very much friends with now. and we still work together all these years later. But it was those guys that this is a very long, convoluted story to get me to say that they ended up playing, being the backing band for an artist called Jamelia, who was pretty big over here, sort of R&B artist. And long story short, I ended up on keys for Jamelia. So that's when I decided, and it wasn't like we were doing gigs every week. It wasn't that busy, but I just thought that teaching had run its course and that I was enjoying music now and I was going to take the plunge. So really with very little financial support from these sort of new gigs, I took the plunge.
Brilliant.
And it worked out. But
It certainly,
I think, yeah,
it certainly
yeah,
did.
yeah, it did. But yeah, there was not much to go to at that early point. I was still just doing pubs and bars, and then this one kind of, if you like, pro gig. But yeah, that's it.
And what led on from Jamelia? What was the next step after that?
It's the music industry is a funny little place, isn't it? It's you end up with your crew. So these people that you meet, that's sort of your core group, if you like. And so we're still like a core group, although we haven't actually played together in a sort of a band like that, a lineup like that for a while. But those guys know other guys, and those other guys will be looking for a keyboard player at some point, and those guys will need a keyboard player, and so your network just expands. And I was enjoying it, and I was playing, great music with great guys, having fun, hanging out, and that just kept moving to other places and other bands. And we got the Overtones job, I think, through the same guys, and that led on to Rebecca Ferguson and people like that, and that leads on to another one. And actually, so the people I play with in Paul Young, they're probably 4 or 5 steps removed from where I started, but now those guys know all the guys I originally played with, and so it's just a big web of great musicians, I've had the honor to play with.
Yeah.
And I think if you do your job well, and you're not a dick, work will come your way. That's how it's been. Just one thing kind of leads to the other.
Agreed. And before we move on to some of those amazing artists, from your time as both an educator and getting an education in music, whether it was Jamelia or those subsequent few gigs, what was the learning curve for you, both musically and non-musically, about how to be a professional musician?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, it's something that it's almost retrospective, isn't it? I'm thinking, looking back now over my career, I can see why it worked, I think. But at the time, I don't know if I knew. So I can say now that looking back, there are certain core fundamental things that have to be in place. So reliability, has to be somewhere up there. Being musically reliable, obviously. So being dependable musically, so that people know that when they hire you for a job, you're going to be able to play the stuff that they want you to play consistently, night after night. But that's probably not enough. Some creativity as well to go with it, the ability to expand, to add an identity to what you're doing. I think that's one of my skills, I think, is to turn something a little bit into my own. I love, obviously, we all learn from other people and other musicians. We pick up tricks and add sort of styles, and generally learn how to play within styles. But adding your own flavor is something I think that's been important to me, whatever genre it has been, so that people know, hopefully it sounds a bit like me. And then, being on time, being those sort of things, having good gear, up-to-date gear that's not going to break down, so you come as a package, I think. And probably more important almost than any of that is just to be a nice person.
Yeah.
To be someone who's nice to hang around with, and that, because as you know, most of the music business is hanging around.
Yes.
It's waiting. You play 1.5 hours a night if you're on tour. That's it. You might have a sound check time, but the rest of the time, I mean, I do get away as well, spend some time on my own, but you're spending time with these guys, a lot of time. So if you're if you're an arsehole, then work's not going to come your way. Although I say that some arseholes do get work, don't they? And I've
Yes,
never understood that. How does that work?
yeah, look, because you're absolutely right. Every artist I ever speak to says it's about the hang, and that's a
Yeah,
key selection
yeah,
criteria. But you're right, there
of
are still
course.
some dicks out there. Um,
They
and
must be
and
so good at playing music
that's
that it
right.
doesn't matter anymore. So
That's
I'm not. I'm
right.
obviously not that good. But you could be, if you're that good, you could be an absolute dick and still get employment.
That's right. And
Yeah.
what I've failed to mention too to our listeners and viewers is obviously aside from being an amazing keyboard player, you've developed huge skills in both singing and some guitar playing as well. How did that evolve? I know you even back to school, you did choral stuff and so on, and your voice is amazing. How
Thank
did
you.
you integrate that with what else you did in those early years as well?
Well, firstly, thank you for the kind words, and I always appreciate them, especially when it comes to singing, because I've never seen myself as a singer. Always been a piano player first, who happens to sing. But I've noticed the longer time goes on, it's people notice the piano playing less. Oh, obviously in work where I'm singing, I mean, obviously. So they say, oh, you've got a lovely voice, or whatever. So I always really appreciate those compliments. Because I never saw myself as a singer. Now that's a deep end thing as well, really. I used to be in a duo, and I would play piano, and the other chap would sing, play guitar. He did pretty much all the songs. I did one or two. And just one night, for reasons that I still don't understand, he just didn't make it to the gig, and I was left on my own to do a gig. So I thought, well, I know 8 songs maybe. So I stretched them out, and I tried a couple of things. I bussed them. It was just a pub gig. And I got through the night, and no one complained, and no one said anything. I still got paid. I don't know if I got half or I took double. But anyway, the lesson was learned. I thought I can do this on my own. So I did. So I've been singing and playing piano on my own ever since. And I have to say, despite all of the great work I've done, with wonderful artists and, sort of high profile stuff, it's really that work that's kept me afloat and
Yeah,
giving me a proper living, because, it's consistent.
that's right.
I can work every week. So that gives me, I'm in a privileged position actually of being able to work almost all the time, because, there are venues that will always have me. Or I actually run a couple of venues. I run the music at a couple of venues, so I can always sort of give myself work as well, so that's a really lucky thing. But that's because of the singing,
Yes.
the ability to be autonomous, and go out on my own. So, but yeah, since I started singing, I have to assume I'm much better at it than when I started doing it. And it's just another skill that you learn. I'm not a natural singer. There are people out there, and I get to work with them, incredible singers. Just another scale. They just came out of the womb sounding that way. I did not. I came out of the womb with I suppose, a rough ear for music, and I could sing in tune. And the choir stuff we did at school, that helps you with the kind of communal singing thing and learning to sing in tune, all those kind of things. But as becoming a singer with a voice and an identity and something that people want to listen to, that's taken time and effort and dedication. A lot of singing in my car.
Yeah, and lessons as well, Stephen, or just self-taught?
No lessons.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, it's a difficult thing to teach singing, which I used to do.
Yeah,
Because again, I sort of don't want to discourage anyone who's having singing lessons, because they are important. They can be incredibly important and useful, but I often find that people who can sing really, really well just do it, and it's annoying, it's frustrating, but they're just that's just the way they were made, and I don't consider it a gift thing or anything like that. I think it's genetics and physiology and biology, but um, you can improve your voice with lessons, obviously, because a lot of people don't know singing technique, so they might just be hindering themselves just by using bad technique. But that quality, that tonal thing, the voice that we recognize, you go, oh, I love that person's voice, that identity. Think about Freddie Mercury's voice, or for instance,
Yeah.
that's a singer, isn't it? That's not a singing lesson thing, is it?
No.
That's a Freddie Mercury thing. And so, yeah, being that kind of singer with an identity and a voice that people go, oh, that's a great voice. I think that just happens to you.
Yeah.
Is that controversial?
Yeah, no, I don't think so at all. No, I think you're right. And Freddie's the perfect example. And I mean, obviously that stood you in good stead alongside your playing. And I mean, we've mentioned the overtones in passing. And I plead ignorance on the overtones until doing research for this article. And funnily enough, on Spotify, you look at their picture and I'm thinking punk or indie or alternative. And then I listened to them and went, wow, what an amazing vocally driven band. So what was that, tell us a little bit about your experience back then.
Well, the overtones have been confused more than once with the undertones.
The undertones, yeah.
Two musically different identities you could not get.
That's right.
Yeah, the working with the boys. I mean, I worked with them for, oh gosh, it must have been nearly a decade. That gig was with those original guys I told you about, who I met at that gig in Balham. Just a 4-piece. Although the bass player chap, he came along later. He's also a beautiful friend of mine. But the four of us, we backed these 5 guys, and yeah, it's just massive vocal harmonies, dancing. That's a whole different thing. So they were choreography as well as singing, as well as putting on a show, sharp suits. I think it was probably the closest I'll ever get to doing those kind of soul and Motown gigs, from the 60s, 70s, where everything is super smart and, it's a very presented gig, in that way. And we used to do some really challenging stuff musically. It was the swing and elements of jazz in there, pop, soul, Motown, blues. Yeah, and we took it very, very seriously, and we used to put together these fantastic arrangements because it had to be quite Shazam. It was such a, visual thing that the music had to kind of keep up with that. And so we do these really huge intros and massive convoluted outros as well, with monster hits and gospel chops and all kind of stuff. So it was, and that's again largely down to my friend Ricky Riccardi, who's a wonderful musician and musical director. And yeah, so because of him and his ideas, largely, that was a very successful enterprise. For years and years, we played shows almost every year. So that was a reliable tour every year for a long time, which we don't do anymore. Which is sad in a way, but these things have their time.
Yeah, they do. And so a show like that, as you said, being so diverse, you need a musical director. And so what did you learn from that stint as a player? Because covering so many genres alone can be challenging. But yeah, what were some key takeaways for you from that period of time?
So, I mean, working with those guys generally in any context, which I've done over the years, has always had these elements in it. But I suppose that was very geared towards playing the same thing every night. So there were maybe 1 or 2 little spots for soloing, but even those were quite orchestrated generally. So like when you hear an Eagles guitar solo, you know what you're going to get. It's part of the song. And so that was how that band went as well. And so yeah, we'd have these moments or so there might be a little bit of variation in those, but not really much. And for the rest of the show, you were playing exactly the same thing with precision, and for me on, 2 or 3 keyboards, sound swapping and splits and things like that, and all that, managing the side of, that side of playing as well. Not as, I mean, it was a more organic gig than say something like Paul Young, which is very keys and, splits and, lots of stuff going on with sounds. It was more piano than that, but there was a lot of keyboard work going on, managing your setup and, and just being precision every night. And I suppose a bit like an orchestra pit, a West End show where it's got to be replicated every night. Again, I've not done the West End thing, but I suppose it's there are crossover elements there. So that learning that, being tight every night, getting those endings and starts and stops even tighter, and getting the feel just where it's supposed to be, all those kind of things, just learning those skills, and really honing that cohesion side of music was probably what came from that the most. A lot of camaraderie in that as well on stage, between the band, obviously the boys as well singing. Learning to be just a part of something much, much bigger, being a part of that and doing your job and nailing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's about nailing it for sure. And probably another unplanned question, Stephen, is there an artist you've played with that is the absolute polar opposite as far as so very loose, huge opportunity to improvise, go your own way within reason? Have you played for one of those artists at all?
Well, I think that perfectly describes Leo.
Ah, okay,
actually.
There you go.
So when I talk about that gig, one of the things, it's a real flex, actually, to be able to say to other musicians, look, I'm on this gig. There's 4 of us. There's no track. There's no click. And it can go anywhere. And often does. So whilst obviously we have songs to play, we rehearse, we're not turning up busking. We know exactly what we're supposed to do. And should the arrangement go the way it's supposed to, it will be the same, pretty much. But every solo is different. The ending of a song could change. Leo may well decide to do another verse, another chorus. We might throw in a reggae section. Something like that might happen. And he's such a comedian on stage that the music's got to go with the comedy. So he might drop down to, you get these ridiculous fades on stage where, we're playing to almost pin drop level, and then it'll go huge again, and you just got to watch him for that. And he's he's basically orchestrating. He's a conductor. So that is the polar opposite to almost every modern gig, where you're on track, you're on ears, and I love that too. That's a totally different discipline. It's not that I don't enjoy that, but there is a bit of, I think it's a case now where those gigs, the Leo type gigs, are becoming, far fewer.
Yeah.
As artists use more track, and I understand it. That when they put these songs together in the studio, there's loads of stuff going on. And it's tempting to use all of that and fill in the gaps. And often a lot of that is, can be the keyboard work.
That's right.
Because you've only got, 2 hands. And so, that ends up on track. But I think Leo just took a different route and said, route? What, have I gone American there?
Yeah.
Different route. Different route.
Well, I mean, Leo.
What do you say in Australia? Is it route or route?
Route. We like a good route in Australia.
Proper, yeah. He took a different route, basically.
Yeah.
And I think it's better for it in that particular scenario. It's better for it because the audiences love it.
That's right. I think, and I don't feel like Leo Say needs an introduction to our listeners and viewers either. Obviously not in the UK, definitely not in Australia. And I feel that Leo actually had, you've just done a US tour. He had a lot of success in the US. So I don't feel he needs a lot of introduction, but I'm interested just how you joined, like how you got working for him. And then, and I'll follow up with a couple of questions after that.
Yeah, sure. Again, it's all about the connections always. So the bass player who was with the Overtones, he's as I said, he's a really good friend of mine. Dave Troke, let me call him out. He's the most amazing bass player. Please look him up. He's fantastic, and he was playing with Leo. And the keyboard player at that time went off to play, I think, with Rick Astley.
Wow.
So he got that job, and so the space was open, and so my friend Dave recommended me for the gig, and I didn't even audition. I think I've got a little bit of a web presence, so I think Leo looked me up from what I remember. I think the rest of the band did as well, just to see if it was the right vibe. And honestly, I don't think they were sure at the time, but they got me in anyway. And that was it. I ended up in rehearsals on day one, and no one sacked me.
Yes.
And I'm still there.
You are. Because how many years has it been now, Stephen, with Leo?
Yeah. Let's do the maths. I think it was 2017 I joined.
Yeah, wow. Okay.
Maybe 8 years now. I have to say, I remember the first rehearsal, and it was a really big moment for in my career. Now I love all of his songs, but he's got so many hits to choose from, hasn't
He
he? You know,
does.
uh, but it was when we started rehearsing One Man Band,
Yeah.
which is not even a particularly piano-y song, but I nearly like forgot to play. I was sort of listening because this is my upbringing, you know, my dad playing these songs, and yeah, that was a real special moment for me. So I'm in the band of the guy who sings this song, and he's still here doing it, and yeah, that was a special moment, and I still feel that way actually. Um, I get a smile on stage with those songs. They're classics, and there's so many in the set that it's a smile fest,
Yes.
all the way.
Absolutely. And so tell us a little bit about, we're not a hugely technical podcast, but how do you cover the stuff you need to as a keyboard
Yeah.
player with Leo? So what's your keyboard rig for that show?
So because it's an organic type show, like I said, I try and keep the keyboards that way as well. I was using a laptop for a little while with Leo, which is totally wrong. I was using it with Paul Young, which is totally right.
Yeah.
There's so many little sounds going on, and actually Leo is a huge fan of technology.
Yeah.
So he's not anti that stuff at all. I think he almost encouraged me to use it, but I used that for a few years. So some of my Hammond sounds were coming from the laptop, and in the end, I thought this gig can go anywhere. I've got time to play the keyboards like they're supposed to be played, so I'll get myself a Hammond. So not a real one. They wouldn't allow that, but I bought myself a Crumar Mojo 61.
Nice.
So it's an Italian made Hammond sim, which I think is the best one. So yeah, and then there's no presets on it. You can't save Thunder in My Heart, you know, or anything. You just have to play it like a proper Hammond, and you're pulling the drawbars out. You've got the pedals, and you're using it like a proper instrument. And on the bottom, I've got anything that's piano related. So that's the RD 2000. So my trusty Roland, had Roland since I started my career. This is the latest iteration that I've got from their sort of stage piano lineup. I love it. That does all things pianos. Some of the Rhodes add strings and pads.
Yeah.
I do a lot of that behind the pianos to fill out the space because I'm on my own. There's no one else. I try and do that in a subtle way, not a cheesy way. And on my left for this last two tours, which is a new edition, I've just brought my Nord Stage 2 out of retirement. Oh. And I use that for, there's a little bit of L-shaped work going on, which always looks a bit funny, but so I've got some strings and things going on for make me feel like dancing. And then we switch to the end of that. We do like a funk section at the end of that song, which can go on indefinitely. So I've got a clave at the top end on that, and so the Nord's really good for like those sort of things. And then I also use it. I switch over to the Nord for a couple of the whirly sounds, which the Roland can't do as well. I just said that, didn't I? Sorry, Roland.
No.
Yeah. So yeah, it's brilliant for that sort of thing. So I literally swivel around and I play for something like Stormy Weather, which is just that whirly sound.
Yeah.
And so it's a really organic, simple setup. Involves a lot of work and a lot of playing. For those of you, I don't know how technical you want to go, but there are presumably keyboard players listening to this. So there is a compromise I have to make, but it's something that I make use of for this gig, is that I MIDI the bottom keyboard, the piano, to the Hammond, so that I can bring in the Hammond as a bed underneath the piano. And of course, that's not the way you play a Hammond, so it's not quite right. But underneath, sitting in there, it's the effect of having a second person playing Hammond. And then other times I switch exclusively to it, or I might do a left hand on the piano and right line on the Hammonds, and that's when it's more authentic. But I'm using it as much as I possibly can to give as much sound as I possibly can, because we don't have track, because we don't have click, and I like it that way.
And I'm assuming because you're using the Mojo, then when you are touring places like the US and UK, you're carding your own gear, you're not backlining? So
if in the US we hired in, but at that point, the US tour actually is a little while ago, so we didn't have the Mojo for that. So I took my laptop. That's where the laptop comes in handy, actually, because hiring in gear, and then anyone watching this who's a musician will know, especially if they're a keyboard player, that hiring in gear abroad is fraught with. Honestly, the number of times I get the right gear is fewer than the times I don't. So you end up reprogramming. Everyone else is having a beer, and you spend all afternoon before the show reprogramming a keyboard. So that's where the laptop comes in handy, because if you've got the sort of complex sounds going on there, then you can carry it around with you, and it almost doesn't matter what they present you with. Yeah, I mean, that reminds me of my very first gig with Jamelia. I hope you don't mind. I went off a tangent then.
No,
yeah, my very first gig with Jamelia, I remember it particularly because, well, one, it was my first gig, but two, because it was in Kazakhstan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, we played for the president, I believe, of Kazakhstan. So you imagine my first sort of pro gig was a bit of a strange one, and they asked me the day before the gig as well. So that gig came in really last minute. That the other keyboard player was unwell, I think. So I stepped in, and I had to learn the stuff at home, and then I drove to Heathrow that night. Didn't get any sleep.
Wow.
And then on the flight over, I was chatting with Louis, my friend, who's still a good friend of mine at guitar. We learnt all the songs over there. We were sort of running through our heads, and then when we got there, not only did I have this to contend with, all these new songs that I never played before, but this artist I hadn't met until we got to the airport, but they presented me with the hired-in gear was a horrendous Casio.
Oh, that one behind you, that one.
Only slightly better than this one. Seriously, it was terrible, and I was only saved because it had MIDI out.
Yeah,
and I brought at that time my sound module. There weren't laptops at that point, but we had. Well, we probably were laptops. Gosh, I don't know. It doesn't matter. But anyway, I didn't have one, and I had a JV1080, the Roland JV1080, the classic module. Yeah. So that I was saved by that. But otherwise, and we had a power cut halfway through, so everything reset as well. It was a terrible gig, really. I still got the job somehow.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's what happens when you hire in gear sometimes in funny places. And this many years later, however many years it is, that hasn't really changed. I'll still turn up to a gig, in Germany or Italy, and it'll be the wrong keyboard. So yeah, so for that reason, the laptop's quite handy.
It is.
Yeah.
And look, you can't beat a JV 1080. I've literally got one sitting 30 centimeters away from me. Oh, I still have mine and love it. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you know what? I sold mine, and I shouldn't have sold it. Don't ever sell it.
No, there's lots of them around still, but yes, I agree.
That's a classic keyboard. Classic, yeah.
It is. It's just amazing. And so let's jump back over the fence again, Stephen, to the more regimented. And as you said, this is not a negative thing, it's a positive thing. So Paul Young is an obvious example. Again, in the UK and Australian sense, Paul Young is incredibly well known. Again, I'm not sure with the US. I assume he had some big success over there with some of his amazing songs as well.
Yeah, he did.
Tell us about that gig, because, it's such a... Well, you can probably describe it better what his sound palette's like, because it is quite different.
Yes, I suppose that most of us know the big hits. So Wherever I Lay My Hat was obviously a huge hit. Come Back and Stay. And those really sort of belie what's going on with his back catalogue. If you check out, so the big album, one we did a 25-year tour for a couple of years ago now, was No Parley.
Yeah.
Which is an incredible album, but it's weird as well. You wouldn't mind me saying that at all. There are some really strange elements to it. Some of the keyboard sounds, he was very experimental. And his thing was kind of to take almost like a soul sound, a soul Motown thing, and 80s it up. At that point, and use modern technology and make it sound fresh and different and new. And because of that, there's a lot going on in keyboard world. The classic example of that is a song called Iron Out the Rough Spots, which is on that album. And it involves, again, I'll try not to be too technical, but it involves 4 splits on the bottom keyboard.
Wow.
And 3 on the top, and none of them really make sense in terms of the pitch of where they are on the keyboard versus what they sound like. Because obviously, if you're doing a split down the bottom of the keyboard, you've obviously octave it up,
That's right.
1, 2, 3 octaves, whatever. And so, but also some of them need sustaining and the others don't. And you're swapping around constantly. So I'm holding one sustaining here, but then moving to the bottom keyboard and then playing a line on the right. And it's super complicated. And but Paul didn't realize I was doing it until he noticed one day. He went, "I thought that was on the tracks." And no, Paul, I'm doing all this, mate. But that's tricky. That's really like keyboard science work. It's almost
Yeah.
it's almost not playing keyboards. I don't know what it is. It's something else. It's almost more physical and than anything else, and than creative. Say, obviously I've got to play it right, and obviously, but
Yeah.
it's parts, it's bits, and that's what a lot of his stuff is like. And then our other poets, where every time you go elsewhere like that, we got that beautiful piano riff, which is a joy to play. But it's not just a piano. It would sound wrong just as a piano. It's a piano with a very tight delay on it to get that particular sound, with a layer as well underneath. So it's very put together in a way that the sort of Leo gig, I suppose, isn't.
And did you have a role as the player, Stephen, as far as you said, quite rightly, Paul uses some tracks because some of the stuff, particularly this, I know it's amazing vocal. Is it Song for the Common People? I love...
Love of the Common People.
Love of the Common People. Like amazing vote. There's all sorts of stuff I can see where you would actually need tracks. How do you decide what the balance is of keeping your interest as a player versus needing to replicate some of that more complex stuff?
Yeah, I think it comes down to, at least for me, I want it to come down to what is the most obvious thing that people can hear on the keyboards. If I'm not playing it, then there's a discord there, isn't there, between the visuals, and often it doesn't matter. People can't often see my fingers. But if you're on a festival or something like that, where there's cameras on you, maybe, or smaller gigs, or people can see down. Maybe it doesn't matter to others, but it matters to me that I'm doing the thing that's like either iconic or the most obvious. So there'd be no point putting that la da 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 dum dum on a track, because it's the thing that stands out the most. People can hear it, so I play it. It makes perfect sense to me, even though it would sound exactly right if we had it on track, because we could take it from the original record and know it. But I get it close as I can, and I play it because it's the thing that's obvious. So other than that, it then comes down to what needs to be in there, what absolutely has to be heard to make the track sound the way it should, and then the other stuff will go. I'm pretty sure he hasn't got everything, from these records on the track.
No,
we make decisions, we lose elements that aren't required, and it's done that way. But from my point of view, it's got to be about what's the most standout thing.
No,
I think that's across the board is pretty much how it works, I think.
Yeah, no, thank you. That's amazing. And I do want you to pick out, and I'm aware that I've talked about Leo and Paul, and we're talking 70s, 80s, and that you've worked with a whole bunch of artists through the 90s and 2000s. Are there some either sessions or live performances you've done with other artists that have stood out to you as highlights or stretched you or were new learning for you?
That's a good question. I think in terms of being stretched, I think, well, I mean, in a way, the Paul gig is a bit of a stretch because there's so much keyboard work going on. Other than that, I think it's more environment-based than music-based. Yeah. I think playing radio is a stretch.
Yeah.
So when you end up on Radio 2 and you're doing one of those sessions with Sir Terry, bless him, or someone like that, that's a stretch, I think, because you're in a funny environment. You can't really hear what's going on properly. It's your cramped space, and you're going out to millions of people, and that's a bit of a stress. I don't get nervous much these days, but those kind of events, I think, that's a bit of pressure, actually. So I consider those kind of things a stretch. Anything that involves, I suppose, for me, jazz is a stretch. I'm not a jazz pianist, but that's a funny, that's a huge statement. What does that mean to be a jazz pianist? I used to run a jazz club, so I know what jazz piano players sound like. I've heard some of the best. Dave Newton is one of my heroes.
Oh, wow.
An incredible jazz pianist who's, who I used to come and play at my club. so there's that level, but I can't do anything like that. But then at the other end, there's, people who don't have sort of any, I suppose, jazz sensibilities, and that's fine too. And I'm probably somewhere in the middle. So sometimes I end up on a gig where we go, oh yeah, there's some jazz in this. I go, okay, what kind of jazz are we talking about? And so I find myself in positions where sometimes I might be being pushed, within my sort of skill set within jazz, and other times I find myself being ahead of where I need to be on the jazz scale, if that makes sense. There was a gig with Nell Bryden that we did,
Right.
That was quite sort of jazz based, but I had enough jazz for that gig. But then other gigs that come up and go, oh, this is a stretch. I've got to really reach and pull something out, because this is not my natural area. So anything that involves the jazz world is something that I respect and revere, and I approach with a great deal of humility.
Yes.
Because it's not my zone. But I think naturally, for that reason, that the work that tends to come my way is the work that I am comfortable with.
Yeah.
Which is pop and soul and blues and country and and all those kind of things.
Exactly.
So there's that. I mean, there are surprise gigs. Let me call out Sam Outlaw.
Please.
Yeah, so Sam Outlaw is a country artist.
Okay.
And I worked with him a couple of times, and he's got some really special songs. I didn't notice at the time. I was busy, and he said he got my number from somebody. He said, "Can you come and do this session?" And we did this little gig, and it was only afterwards I thought, wow, I actually really loved those songs, and I started listening to them. And if that gig came up again, I would. Yeah, it would be the most beautiful experience, because I know the songs backwards now with all the backing vocals and everything, and it hasn't really come up. We only did it twice. So sometimes you don't know what you've got until it's gone musically. So I didn't appreciate that enough at the time. But looking back, those gigs were special as well. He's a really amazing artist. Highly recommend people go listen to him as well.
No, we'll check him out. And just going back to your radio comment, Stephen, look, I apologise to our non-UK, non-Australian listeners, but I can't let the Sir Terry comment go. I assume we're talking Sir Terry Wogan here.
Yes.
So you obviously had the opportunity to meet him. For the sake of our non-UK, non-Australian, Terry is an absolute icon as a radio and TV personality. Was that a bit of a moment, even just getting to lay eyes on him?
Yeah. It's funny because people ask me, you've worked with so many famous people, and who's the most amazing person that you've met? I mean, Terry has to be up there, because for us growing up in the UK, like you say, he was an absolute icon, legend. He was the presenter for a show called Blankety Blank, like a sort of TV quiz show thing. But he was the voice of Eurovision for years and years and years.
That's how us Australians know him, Stephen. That's how we know him, yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Well, but anyone who's listened to that then will know his sort of dry wit. But he was the loveliest, friendliest guy. And I remember, because I met him a couple of times, but I think the first time he came around the studio with flapjacks. The Mrs. Wogan had made. So he just gave us flapjacks that his wife had made. And
so for the sake of our non-UK listeners, flapjacks essentially are pancakes.
Are they?
Well, no. Well, sorry, I apologise. In Australia, we tend to think. So explain a flapjack just for the hell of it.
I love where this is going. Let me tell you what a flapjack is. So a flapjack is, it's usually about this thick, about this like, okay, that'd be any size. You can make them in trays and you cut them into pieces. And they are made up of oats mixed with syrup, and you put raisins and things in them, and you can add other things too. But essentially, it's like a gooey, sort of chewy, sweet, oaty snack thing.
There you go. I stand corrected. Thank you, Steve. You've educated me.
They're definitely not pancakes.
No, there you go. No, obviously not.
No.
Wow. So you learned something.
You could top them with icing, or you could top them with, cherry bakewell flavour or whatever. And you don't have these in Australia.
Yeah, well, I thought we did, and they were like pancakes. So I now totally stand corrected. No, we mustn't have. No.
Well, that's ruled out me emigrating then.
Yeah, that's right.
No chance. Sorry.
If it's good enough for Leo, it's good enough for you, Stephen.
Yes, you lost me there. No, a world without flapjacks. I don't want to know.
I'll be doing some research after the show now. Yeah, no, thank you. A bit of a segue, but I just couldn't resist asking about Terry.
You must have them. They'll be called something else, but you must have them.
They will be, yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. Now, here's a hard question, Steve, because no one has a crystal ball and you've got many, many years left in your career. But what do the next 20 years of your career look like as best you can tell?
It's a timely question because I think I'm sort of aware of, this sounds very deep, but I'm very aware of my mortality in recent years. I mean, that's one thing about getting older, isn't it? We do all think about it a bit more. And inevitably that makes you think about your career. So music can't stay the same, whatever, for me. There's no way I can still be doing some of the work, I suppose. I mean, I already don't play for young pop stars anymore. Which is fine. Why would I? You know, why would they want me to do that? You know, that's not the kind of work that's going to come my way. So elements of your career change and move on. Legacy artists like Leo and Paul, obviously, that's fine. Doesn't matter. I can be any age as long as I can still do it. So those things I hope will continue. I hope there'll be other artists that I've not worked with yet, and you know, a new artist will come up almost every year. I may only work with them once. I might be filling in with someone else. But I hope that continues too, because I love meeting new people. I love working in new scenarios and new musical situations. So I hope that continues. As for me, the other stuff, well, again, I mean, it's probably not unreasonable that I can keep doing the private work and the parties and the piano bars, all that. I do have an interest now in photography. So it was a hobby for a long time. It was a way of letting my hair down, just doing something non-musical. But I can see myself doing more of that, hopefully. I mean, my brother's an amazing photographer, so I've got a way to go before I'm at his level. But it's something I really enjoy doing. I've got a creative eye, I think, for it, and so I want to sort of explore that more. That seems to be quite age-friendly as well, I suppose. Other than that, I don't know. I should have a better answer.
No,
really,
well, I think you're being modest, Steve, because you also neglected to mention, or I was going to raise it anyway, is your own solo album output. And you know, you've released a number of albums, Hearts and Stones being the most recent one. I love your the covers album you did. The black and white interpretations. For those, again, because we are predominantly keyboard players that listen to this show or watch this show, definitely check out all of the albums, but the black and white interpretations, there are some beautiful versions of things like a lot of songs that us keyboard players like to do, like Walking in Memphis, The Way It Is, Good Golly Miss Molly, like they're just all amazing. I particularly love your take on The Way It Is. To me, that's an Everest because I'm a bit of a hack cover band player. But
right, okay.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's not necessarily that complex, but did you find you had to do a little bit of prep for that one?
So you've highlighted a song there for which, if I was going to be famous for anything, it might be playing that song. So my friends, that's the song they get me to play. If they want to hear me, you know, if there's a backstage jam or something, or you know, be like, play The Way It Is. And I think it's because, despite the fact that it's an iconic keyboard song and Bruce Hornsby is a massive influence for me, not many people do it.
No.
Or at least maybe they do over in Australia, but I don't hear it covered very much over here. And people ask for it, and I absolutely love playing it. It's the most joyful thing to play.
Yeah.
And I often had to do it on my own, obviously, and on that album. That's why I did it on my own, because I was doing all these songs in piano bars and things, and I thought, well, I'm not going to add a band now. I'm just going to do it as I do it. And it is a challenge, especially when you launch into the solo part.
Yes.
And you've still got to accompany yourself doing that solo part, because obviously in the original song there's a band behind you and everything. So I had to change things up to interpret it in a way that I could handle. But it's such an amazing song to play, and I didn't really prep for it. I mean, 20 years of playing it was probably my prep.
Yes.
I just love that song so much. I love a lot of his songs. Shall I let you in on a secret though?
Please.
I'm playing it wrong. So, um, so basically, uh, this we're going into proper keyboard world now. But that riff, da 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 dum 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 da da dum. Now the da dum, it's actually an A minor. That
Okay.
it's not a C. So I should have switched the G to an A, the note, and that's a completely different sound.
There you go.
And I could probably demonstrate it, but yeah, it's on the album now, immortalized as completely wrong. Now it's subtle, don't get me wrong, but it's annoying now when I listen to it and go, oh yeah,
it's not wrong. It's an interpretation.
it is an interpretation, yes. But now once I don't know why it took me so long to realize that it was not played that way. So now when I play it the correct way. But it's
There you go.
on the album it's wrong. But yeah, I love that tune.
No, absolutely. Yeah, big Bruce Hornsby fans here. And so speaking of iconic artists, let's get you to choose your 5 Desert Island discs, even if possible. What are 5 albums that really have had an impact on your life?
Yeah. So I knew the question was coming, so I've had to think. The number one album, obviously picking any album is really hard, but I'm going to pick an album called Sleepwalking by Jerry Rafferty. So Jerry Rafferty is a huge deal for me and for my family, and for my late dad. And he was a huge fan, and we all grew up having to listen to Jerry Rafferty, which is a blessing. He's the most amazing songwriter. I think he's the definition of the word underrated.
Yeah,
everyone knows Baker Street and then loses it after that, but he did album after album of absolute songwriting classics. And Sleepwalking is, I suppose, probably not considered to be one of those, but it's a crossover period between full live band, live musicians, and then going into synth territory. And it's a beautiful mix of the two. And there's a song on there called As Wise as a Serpent. It's actually a quote from the Bible, I think. And I covered that on Hearts and Stones. So that's the only cover on the album is that song. So yeah, that's my number one album. It's got so many memories for me growing up. It just hit me at the right point at the right time. And I know it won't be anyone else's favorite. Unlikely to be anyway, because it's such an obscure choice. But yeah, I love that.
Great.
Then after that, I'm going to go into usual territory. I think probably something like Rumors has to be there.
Great.
Which is a bit like picking Shawshank Redemption as your favorite movie, isn't it? It's like, oh, come on, mate, get some imagination. But you know, it's favorite for a reason. That album, Innocent Man, Billy Joel.
Yeah, nice.
I think it's got to be in there for me. Then it gets tricky. I think the first Rage Against the Machine album, might be somewhere up there, which is obviously has no keyboards in it whatsoever. But it's just a brilliant piece of work.
And funnily enough, Stephen, you're the second guest, and I apologise, I can't remember who the other guest was. You're the second guest to pick that one.
Well, that's good. I think keyboard players, well, whatever musician you are, whatever you play, you have to have a wide taste in music. And a lot of my favourite artists are guitar players. There are a lot of my favourite bands and songs don't have much keyboard going on in them at all. And I think that's one of the things that makes me appreciate, any kind of musical genre I end up in, So yeah, other than that, let me pick something more recent. I really love Hummingbird by Carly Pearce.
Oh yeah.
That's a beautiful album. I went to see her live last year. She's incredible. The songwriting on that, I'm a real country fan. That's country done right for me. And then I'm probably out of numbers now, but I've got to pick Back Home Again by John Denver, because that's an album again that my dad used to play when we were growing up. And I know every word of every song, including all the words to Grandma's Feather Bed.
Nice.
Yeah, I know. Again, not a keyboard player's first choice, you'd imagine, but yeah, something like that. I know there's 1,000 others that I could have picked, and I'm sorry. Let's hope I never get stranded on a desert island, because I'd be yeah, there's no way I could choose just five.
I think Grandma's
No.
Feather better cheer you up on a desert island. And just because I'm obsessed with trivia, it was Andy Ross from OK Go we had on the show who picked Rage Against the Machine.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, so you both got great taste.
Can you imagine? Thank you. Can you imagine seeing Rage Against the Machine? Sorry to interrupt you, but I always think about this. Imagine seeing those guys on their first pub gigs.
Oh, wow.
They were playing that album before it became obviously a big deal. They were doing the same songs they were doing Killing in the Name of in those pubs up in, were they Seattle? I can't remember where they're from, but just incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, Steve, we have our last question, which is what we call the quickfire 10. So it's a 10-part,
right.
but very short and sharp
Okay.
answers to 10 short and sharp things. So due to you committing some serious crime, you're sentenced to 6 months in a tribute band. What tribute are you choosing?
Stevie Wonder.
Oh, yeah. Now you're talking. Yeah, great. Most important pre-gig ritual. So what do you need to do to feel settled before you start a gig?
Drink a Diet Coke.
Yep, nothing wrong with that. If you hadn't been a musician, what do you think your career choice would have been? And I know you mentioned English, and I did want to actually, I wouldn't mind expanding on this actually, rather than just being short. English, I assume your love for English and I assume literature and so on has influenced your career as well. So would that have been an alternative career for you?
Sorry, English teaching.
Oh, just, well, whether it be just appreciation of English literature, writing, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I think so. I think I would have enjoyed that. We've all got a book, haven't we, inside us?
Yeah.
I did start to write something once, so maybe that should have been in my future career options. But yeah, I'd love to write. I mean, obviously, poetry and writing lyrics for songs is a huge element of what I do in music. So yeah, language is really important to me.
Favorite tour you've ever done, if that's possible?
Favorite tour. I'm going to put two together. I'm going to say Paul Young and Leo Sayer intertwined.
Yep.
Don't ask me how I made it work, but I had to cover a few of the Paul Young gigs with a lovely keyboard player friend of mine, and I just went back and forward between these two tours.
Oh wow!
It never works out that way, does it? Dates never,
no.
But just it was like that. They interlaced beautifully, and I just went back and forward. I had the best summer playing for these two amazing artists. So that's quite a few years ago now, but yeah, I'm going to pick that.
Fair enough. And is there one favourite gig, if you had to pick it out, that you've ever done? I mean, the Kazakhstan president have to be up there.
I mean, it's a favourite in the sense that it started my career and it was bizarre, but probably not. My favourite gigs are usually always with my band.
Yeah.
So I've got a little band. We have a blues band, and we rarely do it, but we'll play for very little money, and we'll go and play an appreciative blues crowd or a pub. So the venue's not there anymore, I don't think. There's a place in Bristol called the Coronation Tap, and it's a pub and it's tiny, and it used to have the most amazing music and artists on every week, and playing there was a joy. So whilst I can't pick one, I'm going to pick that place.
Amazing choice.
As my favorite gig.
Yeah, great. And is there a favorite city you've ever played?
Oh, favorite city. Favorite city. You're gonna have to edit out this pause because I've been all over the world.
Okay.
I'm very lucky to have been all over the world. I'm just thinking.
Yeah.
A favorite city. I mean, Berlin, possibly.
Yeah.
It's got to be up there because when you're not gigging in Berlin, you're in Berlin, and it's an amazing. Have you ever been?
Yes, I have once. Yeah, it's an amazing city. Yeah,
isn't it? Right, and the history, and I'm very big into history. So yeah, so I think I'll pick Berlin, but that's really hard. I mean, I've been to Sydney, and I've been to America. Obviously, New York's an incredible city.
Yeah,
I've played in Nashville. That's pretty impressive. So yeah, hard to pick one, but I'll go with Berlin.
Let's go with Berlin.
Let's love to the Germans.
Love to the Germans. Name a song that you used to love, but you perhaps played it to death now, either in your band or in any of the other acts. You know, just a song you go, oh God. There may not be one. We have some guests that just don't have one.
No, a song that I used to love that. That's a really good question as well. I mean, Uptown Funk or something like that. I'm glad I don't have to play it very much.
Yeah.
But I've been in function bands, and let's be honest, when that first came out, I was like, oh my goodness, that's a banger.
It is.
Because it was old school and it sounded like music used to sound, and it's like, oh, that's great. Didn't take very long though.
No.
Before every function band on the planet was playing it. Usually is their opening number.
That's
so
right.
I'll pick that, and that comes with a lot of love and respect for Bruno Mars, who's incredible.
Absolutely. Oh god, yeah. Favorite music documentary or movie?
Crossroads.
Oh, nice. Yep.
Does that count?
Yeah, it does. Because is it Ry Cooder that did the soundtrack for that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's formative.
Yeah.
I mean, pivotal moment of again, my upbringing was watching that movie.
Yeah,
incredible. Ry Cooder, another legend.
Yeah, no, great pick. Name one thing you'd like to see invented that'd make your life as a keyboard player easier.
A wireless keyboard. So wireless connections.
Yeah. They're there, but they've got a long way to go. You're right. Reliable wireless keyboard connections.
Yeah, you can do it for guitar, obviously. It's not there for keyboards yet.
No.
But that would be great, because then you could literally never have, you could leave them permanently, whatever it would be, the little transmitter, leave it permanently in all your keyboards, turn on,
and off you go. Yeah. Here.
Come on, science.
Come on, science. Last but not least, your favorite non-musical activity or hobby. So what keeps you sane outside of music?
I'm a gamer.
Oh, nice. So am I. All right. So
Are you really?
So what's your favorite? What do you go to games?
So I'm a PS5 owner.
Yes, same.
And great. So yeah, overarching explanation is that gaming chills my brain out in the way that nothing else can. Interactive relaxation with no consequence, essentially, is what it is. I don't know why I feel like I have to justify it. I should just be able to say I'm a gamer and leave it at that, but you can't, can you? So games, I'm generally go for these. I'm not onlining, so I'm a single player gamer, adventure, and so sort of RPG style things, I suppose. I could pick some favorite games for you. Give you a clue of where I'm. So my favorite game of all time is called Control.
Okay.
Which so from the same people who made Alan Wake. Those guys, incredible creativity. Just phenomenal gameplay as well as the story side of things. Silent Hill 2, the remake. Something like that, immersive. Quite like the Resident Evil stuff.
Yeah.
I like the Horizon series as well. Horizon Zero Dawn, Forbidden West. Big adventures where you can get lost for quite some time. And I play one game at a time. Are you one game at a time, or are you multi?
Yeah, no, tend to be one at a time and go through phases, go off games and go to other ones and come back. Yeah.
So I personally like to start a game, and as long as I'm enjoying it, I stick with it until it's finished. And then might go around again. So yeah, gaming.
No, gaming, love it. And look, I think it's fair to say you've not treated your career as a game. You've treated it incredibly serious, and it's paid off with the amazing career you've had to date, with lots more to come. I can't thank you enough, Stephen. I was disappointed, for the sake of our listeners and viewers. I was going to, after the show, offer to buy Stephen a beer, because Leo Sayer's playing literally 10 kilometres away from me in a couple of months. But as we discovered, Leo takes quite rightly has an Australian band, because Leo is now based in Australia. I understand he would have an Australian band. So no beer for you, Stephen. I'm sorry, but that
would have been really lovely, my friend. It would have been nice to meet you in real life. Yes, but maybe another time. Who knows?
Yes, but no, can't thank you enough for your time. It's been absolutely amazing speaking with you.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me. It's been an honour. Cheers. Thank you.
Well, I hope you enjoyed that interview with Stephen. What a great guy. And look, so much to cover across a career of that breadth. And it was wonderful of Stephen to spend the time with us covering it. So, we look forward to seeing what comes next as well. A huge thanks to you, as always, for listening, and a massive thanks to our gold and silver supporters. If you'd like to join them by supporting us on Patreon, if you go to patreon.com/Keyboard Chronicles, it literally does help us keep this little boat afloat. It does make a huge difference. If you're a private sort of person and don't want a shout out, we're happy not to give you the shout out. We're happy to go either way, but we do love giving shout outs to the supporters that are happy to do so. And they do include the wonderful Dewey Evans from the sunny land of Wales. Thank you as always, Dewey. The brilliant Tammy Catcher from Tammy's Musical Stew. Thank you as always, Tammy. Dave Bryce and the team at the musicplayer.com forums, and specifically the Keyboard Corner forums. Love that place to bits. So much fun to hang there and talk everything keyboards. And last but most definitely not least, Mike at midnightmastering.com, who does a stellar job of bringing the best out of your creation. So again, thank you to Mike. Once again, thank you to you, your good self for tuning in and listening. We do hugely appreciate it. And we'll be back in a week or two. And until then, keep on playing.